Hey, Browns fans, Spencer German here in Jacksonville. Anthony Moeglin back home in Cleveland, but we are excited to be here with you to bring you a little preview of Browns and Jaguars coming up at 1 o'clock today. It's a big game in a lot of ways for both these teams because, Anthony, we know some of the stats on teams that start 0-2 and their chances to make the playoffs. It is not pretty. It's a tough hole to dig yourself out of. So you don't want to start 0-2. Both these teams have that at stake today. And so it's setting the stage for obviously a big matchup. Now, my big thing for you, Anthony, because we know how bad last week went. Yeah. And there's a lot of different reasons for that. It wasn't all on Deshaun Watson, like I know a lot of people tried to make it this week. But, you know, week ones are fluky. It's kind of an extension of the preseason at this point. And there's always some things that you're trying to kind of iron out as you start a new season. I guess my biggest thing, though, Anthony, and this is where I'm held up on, and we'll get to our predictions later in this conversation, is a week long enough to fix all the things that went wrong week one, particularly on offense? Because there was a lot that went wrong. Maybe they can fix a couple of those things, pre-snap penalties most notably, but can they really fix all those things and be like this well-oiled machine in week two?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's one that I think you're not going to be able to fix everything, in my opinion, but I think you'll see a ton of improvements. And what kind of the coach speak is around, this kind of topic is the teams see their biggest improvement from week one to week two, because you just kind of get thrown out there in week one, and kind of like you said, you don't really know what's going to happen. It's a little bit of a crapshoot, and now you have some film, some data to like work off of, right? Where it's like, all right, we need to fix these things. Deshaun, you were bad in these areas. There's stuff that's stuff that you can fix and you can easily identify to be able to fix. So you'll see hopefully some improvements in some of those larger areas. I don't think it's going to be as clean potentially as we want it to be, but you have to see some improvement, because what they did last week is unacceptable, and it needs to be fixed in a lot of different areas.
The one thing I will give the Browns credit for, and it was evident throughout this week, Anthony, that they were not dwelling on it. And I know that's easy for fans to do. The people who cheer for this team, they get caught up in each and every single game. There's only 17 of them, so each one feels like it matters so much, and you're clutching at it and holding on to it throughout the entire week. They turned the page. This team very much talked about, like, hey, it was one game. We got 16 more. It's okay. We're in a good place. I think that is probably the best thing. And you know how that mentality kind of goes, being a former player in college yourself. Like, you can't dwell too much on one individual game, and you just got to kind of keep it moving. And I think that was very evident throughout the locker room, and that's probably the best sign. If you're looking for signs of hope or reason to be optimistic, I think that's maybe the best thing, is that this team really has not dwelled on what happened in week one against the Cowboys.
And that has to be the case. If you spent 1 minute of week time thinking about Dallas, like, it's done. It's gone with. It's over with. It was a missed opportunity. It sucked. But if you stub your toe today, this sets up for a bad deal, because you got to go home now 0-2. And if that's the case, Huntington Bank Field is going to be a very tense place come next Sunday. And like you said, you're going to be digging yourself out of a hole. Yes, the AFC North isn't off to a great start, and the Bengals have a tough game today. The Steelers are probably going to win and be 2-0, but they'll kind of come back to earth. And you're obviously going to be chasing the Ravens, so you're not going to be out of it by any means. But if you stub your toe today, you're going to be in rough shape coming back home. So to your point, I think it's a really positive thing that the guys are like, hey, that's washed, that's over with. And that's got to be the case if you play well and if you play good, because the past is the past. It's gone, and you got to be focused on today, because they really are desperate for a great performance. Because not only that, but it's hard to say this in week two, but this game will have playoff implications come down the line. And these two teams last year, they were fighting for a similar spot. The Jags fell off towards the end. The Browns got hot, but these are two teams that are potentially going to be in that wild card conversation. You win today, it could go a long way to you playing in January.
Maybe another silver lining to last week's loss. It was against the Cowboys, an NFC team. This one matters a little bit more, because when you're talking about tiebreakers, when you're talking about teams that could be in the mix for you for a playoff spot, like this game matters in that way, with it being the Jacksonville Jaguars, a team that's, expected to be at least a fringe playoff team. So we'll see how that all plays out. Anthony, I want your perspective on some things that you think the Browns have some opportunities to maybe exploit today, or some positives, or I don't know, just strategic advantages that they might have in this game. I'll tell you one from the start. Obviously, we know that Darnell Savage, their top nickel corner, is out today. We know that they also moved Tyson Campbell to the IR earlier this week, so he is now out. Two of their corners down. I also think, like, Andre Sisco and Antonio Johnson, their two starting safeties, very aggressive players. They bite on some things. They try to make plays, and I think that becomes an area as well that the Browns can hopefully and Deshaun can hopefully exploit today. What else do you kind of see from this Jaguars team that you think is a positive or something that the Browns can take advantage of?
Yeah, I think to start when Cleveland has the football, and that Jaguars defense is out there, this is the right week to get the passing game fixed. This is a big week for Deshaun. There was a lot of stuff that came out last week. You saw Kurt Warner's thing. You saw all the tape, all the cut-ups, all that stuff. He was horrible last week. He truly was. It was bad from start to finish. There wasn't very much good. That said, there's a lot that you can improve upon when that's the case. He looked uncomfortable. He looked like a guy who hasn't played football since last November. That's what it looked like. He wasn't seeing the field, anticipating doing anything like that. So you get an opportunity today against two backup cornerbacks where you're going to be like, all right, we can get after him. Amari, this is a get-right game for him. Not that he did anything wrong, but he had that big drop towards the end of the game. And Jerry Jeudy continue to build, continue to grow. Obviously, you're going to be down David Njoku. So Jordan Akins continue to step in. But this is a huge opportunity to improve your pass game, especially against a defense who is stout against the run. They're very, very good against the run, and that's what the Browns have struggled with. The Browns haven't run the football well since Nick Chubb went down. So you're not going to be able to rely on that from the offensive side. So a big day for Deshaun Watson in the passing game. On the flip side of things, I think the Browns pass rush can cause a lot of problems. Last week against the Miami Dolphins, the Jags had a nice lead. Trevor Lawrence was playing very well, and then he ended really, really poorly towards the end of the game. Finished 12 of 21 for about 160, I think it was 169 yards and a score, but wasn't efficient, wasn't all that accurate. He threw a couple good balls, but he was under a little bit of pressure. And for Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith, and the rest of that defensive line, I think it's a big opportunity. The one guy that I'm going to keep an eye out for is the right tackle, Anton Harrison. He's a guy who's a second-year cat out of Oklahoma who struggled last week. Gave up 2 sacks, 4 pressures, had 2 penalties, and really struggled. Spence is at the game. They're doing sound checks and everything. Obviously.
Yeah, we're battling some pregame, running through videos on the video board and all that. So we're doing the best we can.
Yeah,
Anthony, I'll throw this to you real quick so I can let this kind of play out. But the left tackle spot still obviously a question coming in today for the Browns. Jack Conklin listed as questionable again today. The general consensus is that it sounds like it's going to be James Hudson playing again. I don't think Conklin's going to be good to go. Obviously, that doesn't necessarily bode well for the Browns. We know there's been some issues there, but something to keep an eye on here pregame as we get obviously the inactives and what that list kind of looks like. Kevin Stefanski continues giving the same answer on these guys. They're working really hard. They're making progress. They're taking steps, but we don't really get a clear indication of like where they're at in the process. So, but I'm anticipating that's probably another week without Jack Conklin starting at left tackle. And so it's probably going to be the James Hudson show yet again.
Yeah, and you were at practice the other day, and they had Jack working through some lineman drills, but I don't know how intense that got, or if that got into team periods.
Well, and also like this Jaguars pass rush, I think is underrated. I mean, about Josh Hines, Allen is the name now, but yeah, I mean, like this group is good, and it's obviously going to be something that the Browns have to account for. So when you hear James Hudson out there, that's not something obviously I think fans necessarily want to hear, but I think that is the reality for today.
Yeah, and the truth be told, the whole offensive line has to be better, right?
Yeah.
Joe Bitonio has to be better. Ethan Posick has to be better. DeJuan Jones pass blocked well, but he needs to be better in the run game. Like the whole group has to be much better. Yes, we all saw the sack number. It was all on Deshaun Watson. However, there were a lot of other opportunities where it was a snap catch and he was under pressure and getting out of it and doing whatnot. So don't let the pass rush hurt you today, whoever it may be. James Hudson, Jack Conklin, me out there, it doesn't matter. You can't let the pass rush affect today's game in a big way.
We'll get out of here, Anthony, because we're battling these videos. What is your prediction? We had our prediction piece yesterday. What is your prediction for the game today?
I was 180 degrees wrong last week. Totally wrong last week. I picked a big Browns game. I'm going 24-21 Browns today. I think that this is going to be a little bit better on offense. I don't think it's going to be perfect, but I think the offense is going to take a big step forward, which you'll see. The offensive line is going to get much better, and Deshaun Watson I think is going to be better. On the flip side, I think Trevor Lawrence is going to continue to struggle. He has to be very, very accurate against the Browns man-to-man coverage, something he wasn't last year. He turned the ball over 3 times against the Browns last year. I think the pass rush is going to cause an impact, and the Browns man coverage is going to cause an impact. Browns get out 24-21, come back to Cleveland 1-1.
Anthony took my score from last week, which is also woefully wrong. I'm actually predicting a loss today, unfortunately, guys. I'm just worried about how much they can correct in a week's time. I'm saying 24-22 Jaguars. And hopefully, for your guys' sake, I am very, very wrong about that. Well, we're going to get out of here. It's been of course, as we're about to end, the music ends. Trying not to get in any trouble on YouTube here with the music playing in the background. But we appreciate you guys jumping on in with us for this pregame hit. We'll be back post-game with some breakdowns of different things that go on, both on an individual level, a team level, offense, defense, special teams, the whole 9 yards, over at the Browns on SI, Cleveland Browns on SI YouTube channel. But, of course, throughout the game, be sure to stay locked in. Cleveland Browns on SI will have all your coverage there of your Cleveland Browns.